Hey guys, this is Nick from forexfornoobs.com with some midday analysis. Today is Thursday the 18th of August 2016 and the time is 12:02 here in the UK, and I'm going to close Steam this time. Time is 12:02 here in the UK. You're looking at an AUD/USD daily chart. In today's analysis, we're going to be doing what we do in every analysis. We're going to be looking at the pairs on the right here. So all these pairs on the right, and we're going to be looking at each and every time frame for those pairs. We're going to do that in order to scan for price action setups. I look at each pair and every time frame for that pair several times per day as part of my analysis, and I look for price action setups, namely reversal setups. Looking at every pair I trade and every time frame several times per day ensures that I rarely, if ever, miss a potential trade setup. So yeah, that's the process I do. I do it several times per day, and for this video, I'm going to show you that process. Now, we're also going to be talking about yesterday's trades. I mentioned 4 potential trades yesterday. 2 of those trades triggered, but I only traded one of them. I didn't trade the other one because it was on too low a time frame. It triggered too fast, and I was kind of waiting for it to form on a high time frame, but we'll talk about that when we get to it. All right, so we talked about a potential AUD/USD long yesterday. So let's just quickly have a look at AUD/USD and see if there's any potential trades forming on it right now. Okay. Well, that's being very, very laggy right now. Sorry guys, just gonna restart, refresh. That seems better. Okay. So nothing really going on AUD/USD right now. Nothing that I would trade anyway. Seems to be kind of a reversal forming here, but it's not on an area of support resistance, so it's not something I would trade. So yeah, let's take a quick look at yesterday's trade on AUD/USD and see how it played out. So in yesterday's analysis, obviously before this trade triggered, I mentioned potentially entering this trade here. It looked a little bit different at the time. It spiked down beforehand. I kind of got into this one late, really, but it still gave me a 1 to 2 risk to reward ratio, so it ended up being a decent trade. The trade was a little bit risky in my risk analysis. Obviously, I saw that it had spiked down, so I had to adjust my stop loss. I was sort of unhappy about that, but yesterday, if you remember, we were looking at several trades that had spiked up beyond the area of resistance or support. Like for example, the spike up here on the Euro/USD trade we were looking at, it had spiked up well above that area. USD/CHF had spiked well below. So, you know, it was just what it was like yesterday. Price kept kind of spiking up and down. It was very volatile, let's say. So yeah, I just said screw it, and I went for it anyway. You know, as long as I had a good stop that was beyond the most recent low and it was beyond the support area, I thought that the trade would be safe. And yeah, it was relatively safe. It ended up being an okay trade. Overall, it ended up being an okay trade. I was tempted to wait for the 12-hour, but I'm glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have been able to catch this on the 12-hour. I entered it on the 6-hour instead. You know, there's always that thing with taking trades, taking reversal trades. I like to take them on the higher time frames, so I like to kind of wait it out and I'll wait for price to stall on an area for a good long while. But if you wait too long, you end up missing your opportunity a lot of the times, which was the case with Euro/AUD, which we'll look at in a minute. But luckily it wasn't the case with AUD/USD. Did anyone else take this AUD/USD trade? It was okay on the 4-hour also. You took it, Ashraf? How'd you do? Are you still in it, or have you closed out? All right, cool. What was your risk to reward ratio overall? So like, my risk to reward ratio was 2. So yeah, what was your risk to reward ratio? I think you're new, right? So I'm not sure if you know what we mean when we say risk to reward ratio, but basically it's the size of your stop, the size of your target divided by the size of your stop. All right, never mind. Did your trade look sort of like this? Like, was your stop around about this size and your target around about that size? Or was your target smaller? Was it like something like that? I think we'll move on to the next pair while Ashraf types his response, because I don't want this video to be too long. So let's go to Euro USD. Okay, so Euro USD. Now the setup on this pair did not trigger. Price continued to move up, and there's nothing really forming on Euro USD right now. But I think we were looking for a daily chart setup on Euro USD, and yeah, it never ended up triggering. Yeah, it's moving up. There's nothing really forming on Euro USD, so. USD CHF, also the setup on this pair didn't really trigger. Well, I guess it could have triggered if you're looking at it on the 12-hour, but I was leaning more towards the daily. As I mentioned in yesterday's analysis, it didn't trigger on the daily. It did trigger on the 12-hour. If you did take it on the 12-hour, it would have been a failed trade. Did anyone take this on the 12-hour? All right, well, it seems like everyone's typing very, very slow today. I don't want this video to be extremely long, so I'll just keep talking and then we'll just come back to it. Okay, so let's check out Euro AUD and I'll explain why I skipped this trade. Well, why it wasn't like it was a good. It wasn't like it was a good decision to skip this Euro AUD trade. So anyway, Euro AUD, you'll recall from yesterday's analysis, we were talking about potentially taking a trade here. Well, not potentially taking a trade. In yesterday's analysis, we were talking about price potentially stalling here. So we thought, price might stall here. But it hadn't really started forming a decision yet. In the end, price did stall there. It stalled on the 4-hour. So had this been taken on the 4-hour, it would have been a profitable trade. But I was being a little bit stubborn and I was waiting for it to form on a higher time frame. 6-hour or 8-hour, 12-hour, I was waiting for it to form there. But sadly for me, it dropped down really quick after indecision formed on the 4-hour. So it was a successful trade in terms of, had you taken it, it would have been a successful trade, but yeah, I was not able to take it, so well. All right, USD JPY, and by the way, nothing right now is forming. Nothing tradable is forming on Euro AUD. So let's check out USD JPY, and it already looks like we have something potentially forming on USD JPY. On the daily. Well, let's look at the other time frames. It's kind of interesting. It's rare that you see this kind of setup. Now on the daily, that looks like a pretty decent setup, but when you look at it on the 12-hour, it just doesn't look as good. It doesn't look as strong. We have that preceding trend. We have indecision forming, so reversal, which then would have failed. And now it's attempting again to reverse. I mean, this reversal would not have failed because the stop loss would be down here, so it wouldn't have hit the stop loss. Technically speaking, you'd still be in this, but it's I'm not that interested in this setup. the reason I'm not too interested in this setup is because price came down to here, pushed up. It already failed to move up beyond this point. Now it's coming in for a second attempt. Yeah, I wouldn't really want to get into that second attempt. On the daily, it doesn't look as bad, but that's the problem. And I was also talking about this yesterday. When you limit yourself to looking at one time frame, you're only seeing price action through those candles. And it's only when you look at multiple time frames and you do multi-time frame analysis that you kind of understand what price is doing in that area. Right here, if you did really take a close look, you would kind of get what happened here, but it becomes a lot clearer when you go down to the 12-hour and, for example, the 8-hour. It makes a lot more sense at that point that we had that kind of move, and we might not necessarily want to jump in again and hope that this time it breaks through this area. Some people might want to do that, but personally, this trade, I would deem this a bit too risky, so it's not worth it for me. There was news for the big candle. It doesn't really matter that much. All right, USD CAD. Same kind of story here. Just doesn't look as bad here. This one looks a little better, but it's the same kind of story. You see, the difference with this one is it has a nice strong preceding trend, and this current indecision candle is nice and low, so by the time it reaches that problem area, you've already potentially made a decent amount of profit. Let's check it out. Let's see how this one looks. So by the time it reaches that problem area, it's only at 1-to-1. Yeah, I'm probably going to avoid this for the same reasons as the USD JPY trade. This one, like I said, it doesn't look as bad. The numbers are slightly better. Now, I guess I'll keep a close eye on this one, but I'm probably not gonna enter a trade. We'll just see how that one plays out. Overall, it looks better than the USD JPY setup. USD JPY setups has a lot of problems. You have that minor support resistance area through here, which has had bounces here already. Struggled when it was moving down, and then it came down, then it bounced away from it again. Even here, you could see it struggled along there. So that kind of area ends up being a problem for this pair when it came up and pulled back. But the USD CAD setup, it just doesn't look as bad. It still has that kind of move where it came up and came back down on the lower time frames, but it doesn't look as bad. We don't have much minor support resistance. It's a nice strong preceding trend. So yeah, overall, I'd be more willing to enter this one, but yeah, I'm probably still not going to enter. I'm just saying I'll keep a close eye on it. I'll see what it does. If this closes as a strong indecision candle and then price starts moving up, I might do some risk analysis on it and decide if I think it's a good idea to enter this trade. But yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath for this one. New Zealand USD. I think we looked at this potential setup on Tuesday's analysis, but then the news came out, it pulled it back down, so the setup was invalidated. But now it seems to be making another attempt at this level. Yeah, okay. I'm going to keep a close eye on New Zealand USD here. You know, it's going to be hard to get a good trade set up here, but let's say theoretically we yeah, but it's on the 12 hour. Nah, I'm probably not gonna take this. It doesn't look that good. I was going to keep a close eye on it and see if a candle, indecision candle formed here on the daily. But today's Thursday, so we're going to have to wait for tomorrow's indecision candle, which will be Friday. And this trade we wouldn't be able to take this trade until Monday. So we'll come back to it on Monday. Maybe on Monday it looks decent, but overall it looks like a pretty bad trade setup anyway. The preceding trend kind of sucks. It looked a lot better when we were looking at it on Tuesday, but now I'm a little apprehensive because of what happened over the last few days. It's just very messy. And on the daily, we wouldn't have any possibility of taking this trade until Monday anyway. So we'll take a look at it at the start of next week. Yeah, nothing happening on GBP USD. Who entered the reversal I talked about in Tuesday's analysis? Remember how we were talking about the GBP JPY reversal in Tuesday's analysis? Well, we didn't talk about it in the video, but I posted it to the blog after the video. All right, so you're still in this one, Paul? Ah, awesome. Because yesterday, I'm not sure if you were here yesterday, but yesterday we talked about this this potential setup, this active setup yesterday. And I said even though it was looking kind of bad at the time, I said to hold it and to stay in it. I know at least one person did not listen to me and they bailed out. I think it was around about the bottom here anyway. One person said, no, the trade's not going well, and they got scared and they got out around about here with a loss. Whereas if they would have held, they'd still be in profit. Now, I'm not saying that this trade's going to end up profitable. Overall, obviously, no one knows what's going to happen. It's still looking pretty decent, but the point I'm trying to make with this is that when you take a trade, it's rare that it just goes straight in your direction without stopping. It's not like you enter the trade and then it just goes bam, and you've made 500 pips. That's not how trading works. Generally speaking, what you're going to get, more realistically, what happens is price moves up, comes back down a little bit, moves up, comes back down, moves up, comes back down. Or sometimes it's not even that nice. Sometimes you get what you got here, where it moves up and then comes straight back down below your entry and then starts moving up again. But the thing to remember when you enter a trade is stuff like that is completely normal. It's not always going to go straight in your direction. When you enter a reversal trade in particular, you have several things supporting this trade. The first thing, when you enter a long reversal trade, you actually have a support area. So the support area is supporting this trade. And you also have confirmation that buyers are taking control of price because they've made new highs. The new highs are what triggers your entry. So that tells you buyers are overall in control of price. And as long as you don't start seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs, which is not what was seen here, not consistent anyway, there was one lower low there. But as long as you're not seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs, then there's nothing that says that sellers have lost control, sellers have gained control of price and buyers have lost control. So you enter this trade because buyers have gained control of price. Unless you're seeing consistent lower lows and lower highs, buyers have not lost control of price. Buyers gain control of price, you enter, and you just monitor the higher highs, higher lows. And that's also the problem with dropping down to lower time frames, because if you drop down low enough, then you'll start to see consistent lower lows like you do here. and that might scare you and get you out of the trade. But if you enter on the daily, just don't drop down too far on the time frames. Maybe go down to 12-hour if you want a little bit more information. But if you're new to trading, don't drop down too low on the time frames because it scares you out of trades. But Paul, good work on staying in this trade. You made a good decision. And we've just got a higher high again, so I would say that this trade is still going pretty strong. Hold on to it. All right, Euro JPY, it's still ranging on top of this area, so we're not going to see any potential trade setups here. No, that's a 3-hour. Got excited for a second with that Euro GBP candle there, but it's on a pretty low time frame. Oh, that Euro GBP trade that we talked about in Tuesday's analysis has also worked out. I skipped that trade because I couldn't get a good risk to reward ratio, so I didn't get into the trade. But I know some people did, so I guess you guys did well. But yeah, I honestly don't think this was a safe trade in the end. The numbers just weren't right. The risk to reward ratio just wasn't good. So, even though it did work out, I would say, technically speaking, it wasn't a great trade setup in the end. See, I wanted to enter on a retrace, but we never got that retrace, so I skipped the trade. But your risk to reward ratio on this trade would have been less than 1.5, which is just not that good. Not that good at all. So I wanted to get in around about here. So when price broke that low and pulled back up, that would have been my entry. And that would have given me a better risk to reward ratio, 1.5 or above. So it looks like 1.7 here. But yeah, it never happened. So to those of you who did enter, I guess you did well with the trade. But do keep in mind for future trades that you want to try and keep your risk to reward ratio above 1.5. And it's just not worth entering a trade with a low risk to reward ratio just because you want to be in a trade. That's not what trading is about. You wait for the best opportunities in trading, or at least good, solid opportunities. And this one, it was not a solid opportunity. AUD New Zealand, let's take a quick look here, but it's in between two support resistance areas, so we're not going to get any trade setups. AUD JPY. And it's sitting on support, but it's not really, on the 8-hour maybe, but yeah, there's nothing tradable here. If you did want to enter this trade, it would have been on the 8-hour, but that's already triggered and it's already moving up. So there's nothing tradable right now here. It's already pushed up too far. So yeah, nothing really going on AUD JPY. So as far as today goes, there's not that many opportunities. There's a potential USD CAD trade, which doesn't seem like the safest trade, but it might do after this candle closes. I might. When I look at a potential setup, I say to myself, okay, potentially we're going to get a reversal here. I'm not sure if the reversal is going to trigger. I'm not sure if price is going to just continue to push down through there. But I'm just seeing potential signs that in the coming 12 hours or so, a reversal might form here. That's what I mean by when I say potential setup. So right now I'm seeing a potential setup here. Is this setup going to be safe to trade? I'm not really sure. That's what happened when the setup forms. Then I do risk analysis on that setup and I decide whether it's a safe setup and if it's a good idea to enter. So yeah, in this particular case, I'm not sure. We'll just look at it after this candle closes. This candle is going to close in 9 hours 30 minutes. So I'll come back to it then, and I'll decide if this setup is worth the risk for me. I'm not sure what you mean, Ashraf. I'm not sure what you've exited from. You also closed out a GBP/JPY? If you closed out, you can't get back in. There would be no logic in getting back in right now. The only reason to enter this trade, Ashraf, is because it has a good risk to reward ratio at the entry point. So the damn it, why do they make these so big? TradingView has been making a lot of changes lately, and a lot of them just have made this platform more annoying. So I've given this a kind of a bit of a late entry and a bit of a large stop loss just in order to illustrate this point. But you could have got in earlier on this one. But yeah, let's say you entered this trade like this, bit of a late entry, but it would have still been good, because with this late entry, you still get a risk to reward ratio of 1.7. It's above 1.5. You know, it's still decent. It's an achievable risk to reward ratio. But if you were to enter up here where price is now, your risk to reward ratio would be horrible. If you were to enter down here, if price retraces down to here, that would give you a good risk to reward ratio, but it would also not be the smartest entry, because then you're entering when buyers are showing weakness. If buyers were to come back down to here now, you know, they would be showing signs of weakness. I wouldn't say to exit the trade at that point, because you're in it, you've still got the support area in your favor. But the reason I wouldn't say to exit it is because you're in it. So you've already entered, so you may as well hold it until you see real signs that buyers have completely failed. But if you haven't entered the trade, entering when buyers are showing weakness is not something you want to do. You want to enter when buyers are strong, not when they're showing weakness. So yeah, entering on a retrace would just be a bad move. You should not have exited. That's what you should take home from this. You entered this trade, it was a solid setup, it had a good risk to reward ratio, there was no logical reason to exit this. No reason at all. Anyway guys, I'm gonna wrap up this analysis for today. So yeah, the only potential setup we're looking at is USD CAD. It doesn't even look like it's going to end up being a setup. It's probably going to keep pushing down, but it's the only potential setup I see. So today is a bit of a boring day as far as trade setups go. But remember that I do this analysis several times per day. It only gets posted to YouTube once per day, but I could be looking at my charts in 6 hours, 4 hours, whenever I look next. It's not always a set time, and I could find a bunch of setups at that time, because obviously the markets are constantly moving. So just because you don't find setups on one of the analysis sessions you do on a day, it doesn't mean that there's no setups in that day. It just means that there's no setups right now. So yeah, keep on looking at your charts. I would say come back at around 4 to 6 p.m. UK time and take another look and see what's happening at that time. But other than that, guys, I'm going to call an end to this analysis. I hope you caught some of yesterday's setups, and I'll see you guys later.